2, 1. Let's go. Welcome to the Fiction Addiction Podcast, a podcast where we go one-on-one with fiction creators, such as authors, filmmakers, actors, songwriters, and more. Each episode, we get the inside scoop on our guests' creative process, the ups and downs of their industries, and our guests also give out tips and tricks that help them become successful. And now, let's jump into the episode with your host, Chris C.L. Lowry.
All right. Welcome back to the Fiction Addiction Podcast. My next guest is a paranormal romance author who is on a mission to expand her readers' minds and create unique worlds that they can escape to through the power of storytelling. Her writing style features sassy heroines, urban drama, angels, wolves, demons, witches, and sensual scenes. Born and raised and based in Dallas, she spent most of her childhood picking apart movies and books. She is currently the founder of Floebe Publishing, where she publishes her own and other writers' short stories. She also provides complimentary creative writing advice to her fellow word weavers. Ladies and gentlemen, Desy Smith. Desy, what's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. What's going on, man? What's going on in Dallas, man?
The weather is definitely bipolar. Right now it's a little warm. 2-3 days ago it was like 40. So we're really over it, the weather.
That's crazy. So, paranormal romance author.
Yes.
What got you into writing in that genre?
Well, actually my mom is the one who introduced me to that genre. She loves all things paranormal. Her favorite one is Dracula. She loves, like, I've seen so many different adaptations of Dracula. And
Really?
From there, yes. That's all she likes, is she just loves Dracula for whatever reason. And from there, I just started writing in that genre. And it's so funny because I started reading in street lit genre. And once I started reading the paranormal romance genre, I've never looked back.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So what was it about the paranormal that, obviously besides the influence from your mom,
mm-hmm.
that like got you like so hooked?
I think it's really just the worlds that they create. You know, it's just like, it's so like awesome. Like, you want to be a part of that world. Like, you can see yourself like, oh, I can see myself, you know. I'm trying to think of the world they created in Lord of the Rings. Like, oh, I can see myself during that time zone. I can see myself, you know. It's just so inspiring. Like, I just want to become a part of it. And that really inspired me to create my own world, you know, especially for African Americans, because that's why I started writing. There wasn't a lot of African Americans in paranormal romance. So I was all like, why not do it, you know?
Why do you think that is, though?
And I don't mean to be offensive when I say this. I feel like we're used to certain things. Like, you know, we're not really taught or educated and told that we can branch out and do different things. Like, you know, we're told, oh, you're good at street lit, so, you know, you should only do street lit writing.
Right.
That's not the case. Like, we can write romance, we can do mystery, we can do sci-fi. And since I've started writing, I have reached out and, you know, to other African American authors who actually do write in my genre. And we're all surprised when we do like group together, because it's very few of us.
Oh, really? Even still?
Mm-hmm.
So how does it feel when you, because obviously once you started, you didn't know the numbers, even though it was a few of you, just to have had those peers that are in the same genre as you, and obviously that look like you. How does that feel, having that type of support in terms of writing in this genre?
It's very inspiring, and it's another word I'm thinking of, and I cannot think of it right now. comforting, I think is the word that I would have to choose, because I mean, if they can do it, I can do it too. And if I ever need the support, if I ever have any questions, I know who to reach out to, because some of them have been in the game far longer than I have.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
So when did you actually start writing? Was it something you always done as a child, or did you recently get into it?
It was something I've always did as a child. I started when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. And ever since then, I've just been writing. At first, I couldn't finish a novel. I was just like having several different unfinished stories in my mom's house, and I still have them to this day. And I think when I was in, I think when I was in high school, I actually started and finished my first book, and I've never published it, but that was the first
Really?
book that I started and finished. Mm-hmm.
You think you ever finish any of those like those old stories that you started? Or are they just gonna be
Probably,
in the
probably not. Probably not. I actually need to take a look at those just to see what I was writing about back then, because
See
I
what you-
my my writing style has changed a lot completely. Like the book that I started in high school, I've changed it like 4 times now. Like I've even taken it off the Amazon and Barnes and Noble's marketing place, because like I want it to be better. Like I'm older now. I think differently. So it's just like I'm gonna do it till I get it right.
Oh, really? Are you still you still chipping away at it?
Yes, and I think the story that I have now for this particular series, I think this is where I wanted to stay. Like this is direction that it was always meant to go. It's just I've changed it like a dozen times.
And that's crazy that you talk about obviously publishing it years ago and then taking it down and then reworking it, because that shows within yourself that you saw your growth as a writer. What do you
Hmm.
think contributed to that growth?
I think personal experiences is one. I think going back to school and getting a degree in creative writing was another. And then the third was just like I wanted to be as good as Lord of the Rings. I wanted to be as good as
Mm,
Supernatural. And I feel like then what I wrote isn't on that level. And I feel like we deserve, like us, like we deserve books that's on that level, because I want to see my stuff in the movies. I want to see it on Netflix and stuff like that. But it has to be good, and we deserve no less, you know?
mm. So so when you break down you break down the growth as a writer, you're growing, you're coming up with these stories.
Hmm.
What was obviously your goal now? Obviously, you started your own publishing company, but what was it before? Like, what was it before you had all this growth? What was the publishing? Um, what was the goal at that time?
The main goal for me was just to get my work out there. Like, I just
You
felt
ain't
like,
care how.
oh, at all. I like how you caught that, because I'm laughing, because I was all like, I'm gonna put it out there. I don't care how it looks. I just want someone to see how awesome I am. And oh
Right.
Lord, it was horrible. But it was out there though. So
And what changed? And what changed over from that period of time to the point now where you started your own publishing company? A big step to take. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's just I've noticed that you can't put out like half, excuse my language, ASS work. Like it that doesn't fly, like especially for self-publishers. Like it's already a thing that we self-publish our own work, instead of just going to a traditional publisher. And when people see that it's a self-publisher, they kind of we don't know if the story is going to be as well, if it's going to be as good. So I want to make sure if I'm putting something out there, like it's great and it matches up with the traditional publishing, prints. And that way no one can say like, oh, well, she's a self-publisher. It's not as great as the other ones,
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think? What do you think the stigma is? What caused that stigma? Do you think it was the writers, or do you think it was just unwarranted from um, readers and obviously consumers of books?
I feel like it's the readers really, because with self-publishing, you don't really necessarily have the money to do everything that the bigger traditional publishing houses have. And I think that we kind of, skip out on editing. We kind of skip out on book cover designing. We skip out on the layout and format for the book. And when readers see that, they compare our self-published work to the traditional publishers, and they're all like, this is why no one likes self-publisher. This is why you should publish traditionally. So it's definitely a stigma, and we as authors who self-publish, we're kind of responsible for that because it's a lot that we don't know. And then, the reader read that one particular book when you didn't know to do this or that, and it's always stuck in their head like, well, you didn't get your book edited correctly. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's like, yeah. Once I don't know, man. It's hard to bounce back once you get that first put that first bad book out, and then the readers, like, you know what I mean. Your name's out there.
Mhm.
It's real hard to bounce back. But like you talked about growth, like people do. You know what I mean? Especially as
Mhm.
writers, people do grow so much. So it's not. I would say it's not fair. You know what I mean? Always to obviously we have the obligation, but it's hard. We still deserve the benefit of the doubt as we're growing. You know what I mean?
I agree.
So what do you think about people that don't grow? Like, you know, what I mean? Like because like you said, there is a business, and everything you stated was so true that you want to match up with the big publishers in terms of the writing, the editing, and the book covers specifically. But obviously, everyone doesn't think like that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's just like some of the stuff they put out is like you look at it and you could tell it's like, okay, this is low budget. This ain't official. Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think some people have that mindset of not putting it all into making it professional?
I think some people just get comfortable. Like, even though it's not professional, it sells. And why fix something that's not broke? If I'm selling
Mm,
copies of this book, if my friends, families, whoever is purchasing copies of the book online, in person, like, I'm not finna, just because a few, dozen people say, oh, it wasn't edited correctly, or, oh, the format of the book was, done incorrectly. They're not going to go back and change it because people are still buying it.
right. So college, you went to college for creative writing.
I did. Yep.
So how was that? Obviously, as a writer, um, did you go specifically because you knew you wanted to be a writer, or is that just you just navigated towards that naturally?
It's so funny. So I went, okay, so let me start from the beginning. I have a bachelor's degree in English. And I've always, like, I knew I wanted to be an author since like high school. Like, my junior year, I told my mom, like, I want to write. Like, that's what I want to do. But I was so fearful, like, oh, I'm not going to get a job. Like, authors really don't make that much money. Artists in general really don't make that much money. So instead of going for a creative writing degree off the bat, I just went and got a bachelor's in English. So then after I did that, I was all like, I deserve to actually major in what I want to major in. So I went back and I got my master's in creative writing, and I loved it.
Mm.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So how was that? Did that curriculum prepare you for the life of a writer?
Yes, and it's totally different. And it's just maybe my thinking, but it is not what I expected it to be. Like, the way that they have you writing in that program. So of course, you can do anything you want to do. You can do sci-fi, you can do mystery, street lit, whatever is your option, but it's more like screenwriting. And
Mm. Really?
right. Yeah. And I remember telling my professor, I'm all like, I write, stories. I don't really write scripts. Like, why do
Scripts.
I need to Yeah. I was like, I don't write scripts. Why do I need to know this? And he was all like, it's interchangeable. He was like, if you know how to write a script, you know how to write a story. And we had to learn this very tedious outline process. It's called a 3-act structure that they introduced us to. And I was all like, what the heck? Like, I'm never going to get this. This makes no sense. I'm not writing a script. Like, I don't have act 1, act 2. And the funny thing is, that's how I outline all of my stories now. I use that 3-act
That's
structure.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So break that down. Break that structure, outline and structure down for the listeners who don't know. And also, would you recommend it from other outlines? I'm pretty sure you did research on other outlines. Would you recommend the 3-act structure for
Oh my
writers
gosh.
out there?
Okay, so it's so funny you asked me that because I'm actually preparing a course to go through with authors to help them outline their stories, and it's a combination of the 3-act structure and then just my personal thoughts in regards to like the structure. Okay, so the 3-act structure it's divided into 3 acts, right? It's act 1, act 2, and act 3. In Act 1, you have stage 1, and stage 1 is basically the opening of your novel. And this is where your protagonist is seen doing what he or she basically does on a day-to-day basis. So it's no more than like 1 to 2 sentences, but it's a quick summary of what this character does on a day-to-day basis. Now that's stage 1, right? And we're still in Act 1. After stage 1, you have turning point 1. So turning point 1 is this incident, is what they call it. And this is where a new situation is introduced to your character. So this is the thing that makes the story the story. So let's say that your character, is a maid. She's cleaning up. Let's say maybe she opens up a closet and she finds like a treasure chest. And turning point 1 will have her either look at the treasure chest or, not look at the treasure chest. But of course, since this is the story, she will have to look at the treasure chest in order to, continue on with the story. Because if she doesn't, it's no story, right?
Right.
So that's all in Act 1, right? Act 2 is it's like when I tell you it's tedious, like I've done this before with other authors and they're all like, man, this is crazy. Okay, so act 2 Act 2 is turning point 2, okay? So this is basically where the protagonist, your character, accepts whatever the situation threw at them in turning point 1. So remember, she opens up the treasure chest, and that will be her going through the treasure chest and finding something, okay? So that's turning point 2. And this is Act 2, right? So now we're moving on to turning point 3. So turning point 3 is like the middle of your story, your script. Okay. So this is like the middle. This is the biggest roadblock that can happen in the story. So we've already established that she opens up the treasure chest. She sees something in there. And a roadblock could be maybe she gets sucked into the treasure chest, or maybe she was never supposed to be, looking in that treasure chest. So somebody comes and then takes her or whatever. So that's turning point 3, right? Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I'm on stage 1, 2, 3, 2. Yeah. So that's Act 2. It's a lot. So then we finally get to Act 3. And Act 3 is turning point 4. Okay. So turning point 4 this is where your protagonist is supposed to meet the antagonist. Okay. So we already said she opens up the treasure chest. She looks through it. Somebody comes and tell her she shouldn't be looking at it. Maybe that person who comes and tell her she shouldn't be going through it will be the antagonist. And you have to have that play out because, a protagonist is nothing without an antagonist. And I don't know, does the listeners know what antagonist protagonist is? Am I?
They should, but if they don't, break that down too.
Okay, so your protagonist is like the main character in your story. Some people have several different main characters, and your antagonist is their rival. Like this is a person that they're always into it with. Some people say this could be the bad guy, although it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad person. It's just somebody the protagonist, goes against in the story. So back to the outline process. So the last thing is stage 6. Okay. So after your protagonist and antagonist, they met, maybe they got into it. Stage 6 is the new normal for your protagonist. So what happens? Was your protagonist victorious? Um, did the antagonist, vest your protagonist? Like, did they get the best of them? Like, what is their new normal? Remember, I started off this particular story with her cleaning up. So my new normal, my stage 6 would be maybe she doesn't have a job anymore. Instead of cleaning houses, she's looking for the antagonist because she wants her revenge. So that's a very long, tedious 3-act structure. And like I said, I am actually going to do a class about this because it's useful, but I feel like it can be broken down better where people can understand it more, because it took me a year to get it. So I don't really expect
Mm.
authors, especially first time new authors, to get this, in like a month or 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm hoping my program will help out a lot.
Mm. So sticking on the same subject of the college curriculum.
Mhm.
Once you were doing screenwriting, did you ever have you or have you ever considered like getting into like that a little bit, like diving into the film industry a little bit in terms of writing scripts?
Mm,
Since you were
I did
basically
think
doing it in
about it.
college.
Right. I did think about it, but no, not really. I think I'm just going to stick with novels. It's always a good experience to have, in case I do want to turn one of my stories into, you know, TV or maybe a little short TV series. I know how to do it, but I like novels more because with script, it's a lot of stuff that you don't include in the script, like it's more action. It's not a lot of description. It's not like a lot of
Oh, right.
dialogue. It's like
Absolutely.
straight. It's straight to the point with script, and you kind of have to do more when you write an actual story.
Now, do you, because obviously your professor said what he said about if you could write a screenplay, you could write a novel.
Hmm.
Um, I can see it. I can see that happening. But do you think the opposite? I don't know about the opposite. What do you think? If you could write a novel, it's difficult. I think in
It
terms of doing it the
it
opposite.
it definitely is, and not to be that person. You know how like everyone says, "Oh, anybody can write." I definitely
Right.
don't believe that either. Like certain people are born with certain abilities. No, not anybody can write.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So that's like saying, "Oh, anybody can draw." I've tried. I can't draw. No,
Yeah. Nah.
right? Like I can't do
Especially some of these
it.
people. Especially some of these people now. Oh my God, they like. It's so much creativity out here when it comes to art now and drawing and illustrating. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, I can't do none of
Right.
that. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Right.
So you are a writer in one of the most, I don't know, not difficult, one of the most creative genres, I
Hmm.
would say. When you talk about paranormal, like also like fantasy, I would say the same for like sci-fi as well.
Hmm.
Um, how do you meet those challenges? Because like you mentioned earlier, you are creating worlds. You are including um, creatures, angels, demons, witches. So how do you dive into that creative space in order to create a world?
Um, Honestly, I think it's basically I do what I write what I want to write about, like, and that's why I love my genre because it's not really defined. Like, I can create the type of angel I want to. Like, for example, this story that I have published now is Rosewood series, and in this story, I created a wolf, but the wolf and the man are two separate entities, and they only share a body because of the pact that the hunter who the wolf resides in made with the wolf. So you can do whatever you want to do. You can create whatever type of land, dimension you want to do. It's totally up to you. You don't have to follow the rules, that I guess your predecessors who came before you, like your wolf doesn't have to look like the wolves in the movies or whatever. You get to create what you want, and if people don't like it, that's them, but someone's going to like it, and that's just what that is.
All right, so I always ask writers this because everybody's so different. What is your writing setup? Like, what do you need to get those creative juices flowing?
Uh, I watch a lot of TV when I write, and
Like at
it's
the
just
same time?
like, yeah.
Like
Okay,
with the
it's
volume
like
up or just the picture?
no, with the volume up.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I do. And it's most of the times it's shows I've already seen, and then sometimes it shows that I don't really have any true interest in. So I just have it, I need like the background noise. I need some type of background noise. And like I do it all the time when I watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I'll put that show on and I'll just write. And
You
it
put
doesn't really
that show
bother
on,
me.
put that show on the right paranormal romance.
Yeah. Like it doesn't bother me at all.
What?
It's really crazy.
That is crazy. Like, what the... Yeah, I would think it's a distraction.
No. I put The Office on and I'll write. It's just I just like the background noise.
Background noise.
I don't have an
Because even if it's a
explanation for it.
rerun, some reruns you be like, oh, I remember this episode, and then all of a sudden, it's a marathon, and I'm sitting here, and I'm not writing.
No, I'll be writing. I'll look up every now and then, I'll pause if the episode is interesting, and then once the part I'm looking at is over, I continue writing with the background noise.
So you like pen and pad, laptop? What's your workflow?
Laptop. I'm on my Mac laptop. I set up the page. So at first, before I like went to school and everything, I used to just type. Now, I do my title page. I do the copyright page. I do the synopsis for the story. I do my table of content, and then below that, I start typing. So I organize it by chapters. It's easier this way too, because when I do get done with the story, I don't have to go back and put all of that stuff in there at the beginning. So I set it up first and then I start typing.
So what program you use? Are you using Word? I know some people use, what is it, Scrivener? I know
you're
there's
talking
a
about. I've
bunch of
heard it
different
before
programs
too.
out here. What program you use?
Word, love Word.
Why?
It's easier for me. And actually, when I went to school was it high school? Like, they had those little courses that showed you how to use Word, how to use the comments, the track changes and everything. So I'm very familiar with Word. My coworker showed me Google Docs, like, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago. And I was like, what the heck is this? And she was like, yeah, this is the popular thing now. No one uses Word anymore. And I was like, well, I'm still going to
Google
use Word.
Docs?
Mm-hmm. So
I
you can
don't even
basically,
know that.
you can do everything you do in Word with Google Docs. It saves it to automatically, so you don't have to worry about losing your work. And with Google Docs files, I believe it goes to a specific, like a hard drive. Like how Apple has like that specific cloud. Google
Cloud
Docs,
based.
yeah, Google Docs have something similar to that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. So going from a writer to a publisher, how difficult was that? Because obviously you're learning a whole different. It's one thing being an independent writer, but then once you
Mhm.
become a publisher, you jump into a whole different world in terms of business and organization and in terms of budgeting, marketing, and everything like that. So how was that journey going from a writer to a publisher?
It's very difficult. In my opinion, I feel like it takes away from the writing sometimes because, like you said, a lot of stuff goes into it. You know, you have to find a book cover, you have to do marketing for the book, you know, you have to do exterior. I have to, it's just a lot. it it took me a while to balance that. But once you get it and if you save your resources, it's a lot easier. Like I didn't even know how to format a book. And now I can do it in like a minute flat, if that. Like it doesn't take that long now.
Mm. And so how are you able to find? What's your process of finding and deciding who you work with in terms of your publishing company, in terms of the writers you decide to take on, and also like the editors, the cover designers, all those people. How do you determine who's the right fit for Flobe Publishing?
So I'm going to be honest. It's a trial and base error for me. Um, I know for my covers, I was receiving feedback that they sucked. So I switched to a whole
Oh,
new
damn.
real. Yeah, like you have to have tough skin to be a publisher and like a writer, period. And like I've definitely developed a tougher skin because people are harsh. So but yeah, I switched cover designers and like everyone loves this person. They're like, oh, who does your covers? Like I always get compliments. Like people's like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. With editing, I have a story now out in the market that some people said is not edited correctly. So what I have to do is go back, find a new editor, and update the story. Like, I mean, it's a trial and error thing. Like you can't beat yourself up about it. You know, each person notices something different. What works for one person may not work for the other, but it's trial and error for me.
Now, is Flobe Publishing, is that, are you just going to be uh, an all around publisher, or are you going to be a genre specific publisher? Because I know some publishing companies are genre specific.
I'm going to be an all around publisher, and actually, I write in two different pen names. So I write in Desy Smith, that's the paranormal romance, and then I write in my other pen name, Carmel Delight. That's my erotica genre that I write in. So I'm going to be an all around publisher.
Mm. So erotica, because we had a couple authors on the podcast that are from erotica. What is your opinion about the state of erotica in terms of the publishing world?
What do you mean?
In terms of the genre, with the negative stigmas that come with erotica, you know what I mean, and also the growth of it. Because I some of the authors we interviewed, it's not just, you know what I mean, it's not just sex. They're actually good stories,
Hmm.
and most people, when they think about erotica, they just think about, you know what I mean? They're so quick to dismiss it, but not really understand, realizing these are actually good stories in most of these books. But why is it such a negative stigma in today's society?
Because I think people think erotica is porn. And like I just don't I feel like people connect the two and in their minds, you know, they're like instead of writing about it, you could just watch porn, you know. And I mean, that's true. That's definitely true. But
That's true.
it's true. There's like you said, some writers actually do a story behind the erotica. And I think for women that's better because we're very visual people. Like you just can't have the man knock on the door and they're just like straight into action. Like you have to kind of build. Like women, we're all like, no, he got that too easy. Like you really gotta build that fantasy, you know? Like we really want you. It's the truth though. Like we don't. What he knocking on the door for? Coming, you know, like that's how we
We
think. Like for
knocking on the
men,
door. Right.
for men, y'all are like, yeah, let's get to it. Like I don't need to read all that. Just let's get to it. For women, we're all like, like he ain't gonna tell her name, and you know they're not gonna introduce them. Like it's man, we think real crazy.
They're not gonna like go date and date each other for years, and before they
exactly, like you're not gonna commit to her first. Like no,
oh,
give us some background information. So it's that, and it was something else that was on my mind. I can't even think of it. What's the other thing I was going to say about erotica? Oh, and sometimes it's just like unbelievable. Like, and I'm not trying to talk about anybody's books, but the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy. I was just all like, how, Lord, how? And I think like I think that's another problem too. Like, you know, you read this stuff and you're all like, there's no way in hell that someone is letting this happen. Like, no, like you're like 7 feet in this book and she's 5 feet. Like, how is that even working out? Like, no, I'm not going to believe this. So we think like that too.
That's crazy. So you said Caramel Delight?
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get that pen name from?
I just made it up.
Like what? Like from what? Like
I just I don't really have. I just made it up. I didn't really take it from anything. I just made it up.
Really? Now, when you developed your pen name, was it like a list of names you were choosing from, or did you just go with the first thing you thought of?
So my name is Desiree, and Desy is my nickname, and my last name is Morrow, but my mom's maiden name is Smith. So that's how I came up with that. And with the Caramel Delight, I want to create something that was so different, not even associated or could be associated with Desy Smith. So that's how I came up with that.
And why was it important for you to separate the two genres?
I didn't really. Okay, so I know my genre, the paranormal romance, is targeted to teens, like 16. I didn't really want them to interact with the erotica. So I really wanted to make sure that I separate the two genres because I didn't want the parents of the teens to like, you know, mistakenly walk upon them reading erotica like, why is this, you know, this chick writing in two different genres like that? You know, like her books are targeted to teens, but she's also writing erotica. Like that it's not really a good look to me. Like I'm a teacher, so I didn't really I don't want any like mistakes or it's separated for a reason. Like if you're looking for Caramel Delight, you're going to really have to look for her. And then you'll know. Like the teens, whoever read my book will know, well, yeah, no, this is two different pen names. So you can tell this is two different genres, you know?
Exactly. So where do you teach at? I mean, not where do you teach at? Like not specifically. Like people start, but like, so what grade do you teach?
High school. High school.
So how is that now today? Like how would it? Because when I was in high school, we were a mess. But today's kids, I don't know. I think they with all the phones and all the nonsense. I was teaching. How was that?
They're still a mess. They're still a mess.
It ain't changed.
No, it's even worse now with the cell phone. So.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So how is it? Is it in terms of I don't know what to say. I don't know. We grew up in a different era, I think, than they did.
That's true.
We grew up where books were the escape for us. So it was easy to get caught up in the book and, you know what I mean, just get lost within the words. For them, which is not really their fault, with social media, they're in such a visual world that it's even hard to get their attention. Like keep their attention because everything's so fast. You got the vines, the stories, the Snapchat. Everything's so fast and is expected to be fast. How does that translate into the classroom in terms of teaching? Has teaching the curriculum changed a little bit to make things more visual to keep up with society?
They try to implement more technology into the classrooms, but it's kind of problematic because the students will be so focused on the technology, and the teacher is only one teacher. Like, I can't watch everyone. So while I'm, giving the lesson, the students are supposed to be taking notes with the laptop or following along, with the PowerPoint. Instead, they're on a different website playing games, listening to music. So it's very like, sometimes it's helpful and then sometimes it's just a distraction. Like, and in my classrooms, I don't even let them use it at all. Like, and they'll tell me too, like, oh, Miss Morrow, they let us use the laptops when we take notes. I'm like, no, we're taking notes the old fashioned way with pen and paper.
Right, exactly.
I don't have time to keep looking behind me to make sure that you're not on another website while I'm giving a lesson. So no, we're doing it old fashioned.
And how was do any of your students know that you're an author?
Yes, it's so funny because one day I asked my students, I said, like, do y'all read outside the classroom? And they were all like, no. I was like,
really?
Like, no. Nope. Man, so serious. I was like, y'all don't read at all? And, it's always a few students who do read in the classroom, but I was just trying to really gauge, like, because my market is them. Like, that's who my market is. And I was like, y'all don't read? And they was like, no. If it's an Audible, we may consider it, but not really.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'm like, an Audible? No.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, what the heck? I don't know. Because even when you think about it, even when you think about as many shows they have out that are good and good series, and they still don't compare to the amount of diversity that's within books. You know what I mean? For every show, you keep like, you know what I mean? You can get wrapped up in the show, a good show, it's over, boom. But you got like hundreds of books that will give you the same entertainment or even more entertainment. So that's real hard to believe. That's crazy.
They don't really watch TV either, they were telling me.
Oh, snap.
Right.
What the hell they
do? They play video games and they're on their cell phones. That's it.
That's it.
Their video, cell phone. In class, texting one another instead of just leaning across the table or desk just to speak to that person. That's how it is. That's just kind of crazy. Mm-hmm.
You think we're going to be staying in this norm, or you think it's going to change?
I don't really see it changing anytime soon. And unless like something happens where the technology won't be available for like a certain period of time, I don't see it really changing. I think it's just going to get upgraded.
So what was your mom's reaction when you showed her your first book, like the first official book?
Oh my gosh, she was so happy. She oh my gosh. So I say it like that because she made me get like 100 copies of that first book, right? Now, mind you, I didn't know nothing about marketing. Starting out, I was a shy person, so I wasn't really a person just to go up to you and say, hey, you want to read my book? So I still have about, I want to say about 50 copies that I have not sold of that book. It's just,
oh snap.
Yeah, she was just so excited about it. And like, it was a lot. She was proud though. Yes,
so what was your reaction when you got the first print run? done, and then you got that delivery, and you opened up that box.
Oh my gosh, you couldn't tell me anything. I was all like, "Yep, I did it." I was like, "I'm about to be the next." I'm trying to see who's in my market. I can't even think of her name, but I was all like, "I'm about to be the next Mad Cabot," Gonna be the next Stephen King. I'm gonna be on Oprah Winfrey show. People are gonna be coming and talking to me about this book. My expectations are really high.
Listen, man, you got to speak into it in existence.
You do. You do.
Listen. So let's jump into the book. And it is the Rosewood series. Start with, focus on book 1, The Guest House Witch. So this story, man, when I say creativity was just weaving through these pages, the words and each word and the characters, it's crazy. And I'm like, damn, like, how do you even, you know what I mean? Because like, how do you even think of that in terms of, because I got so much respect for like fantasy writers, paranormal writers, because in sci-fi, because it's like you said, you are creating worlds, you're creating these characters that are so out of the norm that you just you love it. You're so intrigued by them that you're like glued to each page. So Sage Rosewood, what was the story behind creating that character?
So it's funny. I've advertised, I think, did I put a picture of Sage Rosewood in the book? I don't remember. I think it's a picture of her, right? In chapter 1. So I advertised her picture on my social media platforms, Facebook marketing and Instagram marketing. And people ask me all the time, like, how did you create that particular character? And Sage, she relates to me a lot as a person. And I've noticed that when I do write any of my female characters, I put a lot of me. Well, not a lot, just little bits and pieces of who I am into that character. But Sage is definitely me. Like that is me all the way. Like she's very attached to her family, as you read in the book, like she doesn't necessarily do anything on her own. She has to, seek their opinions out before she branches out. And in the story, something happens where she has to actually start, being independent. Like she starts to have to make decisions by herself and, just she comes into who she's meant to be. So I can really definitely relate to that character.
So breaking down the other characters, obviously without giving away too much. So what was the mindset, obviously, after you created Sage to create these other supporting characters in the way you did?
The next character would be Caden. And that's like Sage boyfriend or love interest in the story. And I've had a friend who had a similar situation to Caden, and it wasn't a guy or anything. It was just like a girl. Like, how you have those friends who really don't have much of a home presence. So they kind of attach themselves to you because that's what they're missing. And in the story, Caden, his mother died at a young age, and his beta family was the one that took him in and raised him to be the man he is today. So I think that's where I kind of got that story from, because have had friends where we've had to take them in because they didn't really have anyone at their house, And then another character, the beta, Rayvon, just going back to that friend who took Caden in, like I created Rayvon as that character, he's funny, he's likable, he's like the little brother that nobody wants, but he's super fun. He's well mannered. He's a good person to be around. He'll get you in trouble, but you need like people like that in your life, like they make life fun. So that's why that's why I created him.
So in terms of the setting, the woodlands, what was your thought process in terms of, because I'm always interested to see like what people are thinking, like, because things are so different in the planning process, the outlining process. You know what I mean? In terms
Mhm.
of like, oh, how am I going to create this setting, and what am I going to have be the obstacles in terms of entering this world and entering this specific place. So, what was your thought process behind the woodlands and creating them?
So actually, I created the woodlands because I moved. The particular complex I stay in is called Everwood. So I decided that I wanted to create a place with wood either being the first of the surname or wood being the ending of the surname. So the place that they stay in is the Woodlands. Rosewood is her last name. Caden Dynasty Wood would be his last name. And then all my other characters, they have Wood at the end of their last like name. So it all came from basically where I moved. I was like, oh, I'm gonna create a whole complex, a city with wood in there somewhere.
That's crazy. That's hot. You know what I mean? Like, so, what made you decide to make it a series?
um, I, okay, so my genre I write is paranormal romance, right? But I also write short stories, and I don't want to go above 20,000 words, so it had to be a series. And the only reason I did that was because when I asked my students, like, do you read books? And they were all like, no, and we definitely not reading no big Twilight books either. So I was just all like, in order to capture their attention, the book has to be short, sweet, to the point. And if they like it, then they'll read the continuation of that particular series. But if it goes on and on and on, they'll just be all like, nope, not doing it. So
Right.
that's why it had to be turned into a series.
And the cover designs are very unique. Why did you decide to go with that style?
Let's see, the cover designs. I'm trying to see, it was some years ago. And as you know, I actually bring my characters to life. Like I said, I want to bring representation for African Americans in the paranormal romance genre. So I do create, not me because I can't draw, but I do have artists to draw the characters. I wish that'd be so much cheaper. I have the artists to like draw the characters and bring them to life. And I was making covers surrounding those characters. And this other book publisher, she's African American also, and she does like self-help books. She was telling me, she was all like, when you do, book covers, you want to make sure that they're Caucasian books. And she was like, when you do that, anybody will pick them up. She said, because think about it, when you go into the store, you see a Caucasian book cover, you pick it up, a Caucasian will pick it up, Native American. And then she said, if you do only a Black character prominently on that book cover, if people will be a little less hesitant to pick up the book cover. Like you want it to appeal to, different people, not just one particular genre. And she was right. It definitely does appeal to more than one person. People pick it up. Like they look at it and they're like, oh. So that's what I do now.
So what's next for the Rosewood series?
So the Rosewood series right now, 3 books is published. You have The Guest House Witch, that's number 1. You have The Book Witch is number 2. The Enchanting Witch is 3. So those 3 are already available. It's 4 more books in this series. I can't think of, I want to say book 4 is The Mated Witch. Mated. And book 5 is The New and Approved Witch. I have those book covers already done. I haven't got the book cover for book 6 yet, but it's in the making.
And what's next for Desy Smith?
Desy Smith, I am working on, oh Lord, I'm working on a lot of things now that I think about it. I'm I'm a very busy person apparently. I'm supposed to be a part of this. We're having a a book convention in New Orleans. And what is the name of this? Dang it, I can't think of it. Darn it. I can't think of it at all. Come on, I'm trying to make it come to me. I really can't think of it. Oh, it's the Court of Sin.
You created it?
No, I didn't create it. It's a book convention. It's the Court of Sin, and I'm a part of the anthology that they're doing for this particular book event. And the name of the story that I'm working on is You Can't Escape Destiny. So it's about like a fire elemental. So she has the power of fire, and it's about a dragon. So that's one story I'm working on. And remember the story I was telling you about earlier, how I kept changing it? So yeah. I'm reworking on that story too. I'm changing the name of it and everything. So it's going to have a whole new look, whole new attitude. So I'm doing that too. And I'm also working on this outline too.
So tell people where they can find you, get in contact with you, where they can sign up for the course, and also where they can find your books.
Awesome. So you can follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, at Floebe Publishing. So it's FLOEBE, and then publishing. My books are available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Kobo, and Apple's Books. And actually, the first book in the Rosewood series is free, so you don't have to spend any money. The outlining process that I'm starting on, currently, I don't really know where I'm going to put that at. I'm still like shopping and looking around. So when I do find out, I will update it on my personal website, www.floebepublishing.com.
All right, Desy Smith, we appreciate you stopping by on the Fiction Addiction podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Fiction Addiction Podcast. Make sure you visit fictionaddictionpodcast.com for links on everything we talked about today, as well as awesome resources, additional tips, and fiction addiction merchandise.